No one knew what was coming. Not the children walking to school, not the farmers in their fields, not even the scientists who built it. August 1945. The world stands on a precipice. The war in Europe is over. Hitler is dead. Berlin lies in ruins. Cities from London to Leningrad are scarred, their people shattered but breathing again. But in the Pacific, the nightmare continues. Across jungles and oceans, the United States and Japan fight a war with no mercy. Kamikaze pilots strike American ships. Firebombs incinerate Japanese cities. Still, Japan does not surrender. Washington estimates a full invasion will cost hundreds of thousands of Allied lives. Japanese leaders vow to sacrifice millions to defend the homeland. But behind the front lines, far from the blood and mud, a different plan is unfolding. A new kind of war, a new kind of weapon. On a small Pacific island called Tinian, a silver plane waits on the runway. Inside, it holds the product of the Manhattan Project, the most ambitious and secretive scientific effort in history. This is not just another bomb. This is the first weapon that could erase a city in seconds. And in just hours, it will do exactly that. August 6, 1945. Hiroshima wakes to blue skies and summer heat. The city hums with the quiet rhythm of a Monday morning. Streetcars clang along their tracks. Children walk in clusters toward school. The war has taken its toll, but Hiroshima has, so far, been spared the firestorms that reduced Tokyo and Osaka to cinders. Hiroshima had been largely untouched by Allied bombing. Intentionally, military planners wanted to measure the full effects of the atomic bomb on an undamaged city. It was home to over 300,000 people, and also housed military command units and key supply lines. When a formation of 3 B-29 bombers appears overhead, no one panics. It's a familiar sight. Small scouting runs have become routine. But aboard the lead plane, the Enola Gay, is a 10-foot steel cylinder little boy. The pilot, Colonel Paul Tibbets, knows only one thing. Drop the bomb. Don't look back. The Enola Gay took off from Tinian at 2:45 a.m. with a crew of 12. They flew at 31,000 feet toward a city most of them had never heard of. Alongside them were 2 additional planes, one to take measurements, another to photograph the blast. As they approached Hiroshima, Navigator Theodore Van Kirk made the final adjustments. At precisely 8:15 and 17 seconds, Bombardier Thomas Farabee released the bomb. It fell in silence, guided only by gravity and history. The bomb falls for 44.4 seconds before exploding 1,900 feet above the city. In that instant, time fractures. A flash brighter than 1,000 suns. A core temperature hotter than the surface of the sun. Within a fraction of a second, buildings vaporize. Skin melts. Bones turn to ash. Human shadows are etched into concrete walls. A blinding light is followed by a roar that ripples outward, shredding rooftops and shattering glass across miles. A shockwave, then fire. Fire that leaps across rivers. Fire that consumes bodies and buildings alike. Above it all, a mushroom cloud, over 40,000 feet high, boils into the stratosphere. Survivors stumble through hell's capes, skin hanging in sheets, eyes blinded, crying for water. For some, the skin of their hands fuses to their faces. In the chaos below, there were no clear cries, no words. Only heat, silence, and a sudden storm of flame. Doctors, children, monks, bakers, vanished in a blink. Even the sturdiest buildings, those made of steel and concrete, collapsed inward as if pressed by an invisible hand. 70,000 people perish instantly. In the weeks and months that follow, the toll climbs to 135,000. Hospitals overflow with burns and radiation sickness. Hair falls out in clumps. Skin rots. A black rain falls, thick with radioactive ash. The survivors, hibakusha, or explosion-affected people, will carry the scars for life. Many survivors faced years of chronic illness, leukemia, organ failure, and severe burns that never healed. The word hibakusha became a label and a burden. In post-war Japan, they were often shunned, denied jobs, or discouraged from marrying. fears of genetic damage lingering in silence. Then, on August 9th, before the world can catch its breath, a second bomb falls, this time on Nagasaki. The weapon is more advanced. The devastation, no less horrifying. 60,000 to 80,000 more lives are lost. The message is clear. This is no fluke. The destruction can, and will, be repeated. On August 15th, Emperor Hirohito speaks to the Japanese people for the first time in history. He announces Japan's surrender. The war is over. World War II, the deadliest conflict in human history, has come to an end. But a far darker era has begun. In the years since, historians and military officials have fiercely debated whether the bombings were necessary. U.S. leaders argued it saved lives, both American and Japanese, by avoiding a full-scale invasion. Others point out that Japan was already crippled, blockaded, bombed, its navy sunk, its cities in ruins. Some say Japan was seeking surrender terms before Hiroshima, but insisted on preserving the emperor's role. The bomb not only ended the war, it also sent a message to the Soviet Union, then advancing into Asia. Critics call it a show of force, a nuclear diplomacy move that launched the Cold War. Supporters call it a tragic necessity. What no one calls it is insignificant. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki did more than end a war. They changed the course of human history. In their wake came an arms race, Cold War tensions, and the terrifying logic of mutually assured destruction. Two cities were erased in seconds, and with them, the illusion that science would always serve peace. The cities were rebuilt. Skyscrapers rose from the rubble. Children returned to schools. But beneath it all, beneath every sidewalk and every garden, lie the ashes of that day. And above it all hangs a lesson. When we create something powerful enough to destroy us, we must also create the wisdom not to use it. In the decades that followed, the world hurtled toward the edge. The US and Soviet Union built arsenals capable of annihilating Earth many times over. At the height of the Cold War, more than 70,000 nuclear warheads existed worldwide. There were accidents, many. In 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the world came within minutes of nuclear war. The nuclear age didn't just begin in Hiroshima. It has lingered above every generation since. Today, Hiroshima and Nagasaki do not speak of revenge. They speak of peace. At the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Park and the Nagasaki Atomic Bomb Museum, candles burn, names are read, silence is observed. Every year on August 6th and 9th, survivors gather to remember, to testify, not so we relive the pain, but so we never repeat it. Some have spoken at the United Nations, campaigning for disarmament. Their voices helped inspire the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, adopted by over 120 nations in 2017. Their message echoes louder with each generation. Never again. Today, nearly 13,000 nuclear weapons still exist. Most are in the hands of the US and Russia, but others, too, hold the power. Treaties like START, NPT, and TPNW aim to control the spread. But tensions rise. North Korea continues testing. Nations like India and Pakistan remain in conflict. Even in peacetime, the threat lingers in silos and submarines. And the question remains, if the weapons exist, will they one day be used again? The Hibakushas say, no. They remind us that peace is not a slogan. It is a practice. One we must choose, again and again, every generation. History is not just a list of battles and dates. It is the story of choices, and the people who live and die by them. We urge you, learn the names, hear the voices, remember the fire. Because if the nuclear age began in flames, its legacy can still be forged in peace. Let us be the generation that chooses memory over amnesia and peace over power. This August marks 80 years since that moment. 80 years since Hiroshima, since Nagasaki, since a flash of light forever changed what it means to be human. The buildings have changed. The survivors have aged. But the story, the warning, remains. And after 80 years, the shadows still speak. They ask us not to forget, and never to repeat. Thank you for watching and remembering with us. If this story moved you, please consider subscribing to our channel. We share stories from history, science, and the human experience, always grounded in truth and told with care. Until next time, stay curious and stay compassionate.